Hi, my name is Nick, and I am teaching this video on lean startup principles and how we use it in our PAL program. So this video was created on November 14th. The idea of lean manufacturing came out of Japan, who wanted to compete against the United States in building cars. They didn't have the factories that the United States had, and they didn't have all of the resources and capital that the United States had. So what they did was they learned how to use less machines, and you make the machines do multiple things, and use basically single process flow, where they build one car at a time. Instead of building 1,000 of each part, they built one of each part, or they built the whole car from front to end. And that meant they needed less warehouse space. It also had a lot of other advantages in terms of learning from each iteration of the production of the car. So if they made a mistake with the car or realized that the car could be better, they hadn't built 1,000 of the parts for the old version. They had only built the car once and could rapidly improve it each time they made a new car. As opposed to the US, they would have to get rid of all of the parts from the old way of building it before they could make their improvement or correct the manufacturing error. So the lean manufacturing is embodied in Toyota, which a lot of people think has the best production management strategy in the world. And the principles for lean manufacturing were adapted by Eric Ries in this book, Lean Startup. And he basically describes how when you're creating an innovative technology, product, or service, you're in a climate of high uncertainty. And if you use the lean manufacturing principles, then you have the best chance for success. So the lean manufacturing or lean startup basic principles, you define a value and a growth hypothesis. So if you are going to invent something new, you're going to define what value you think the thing has and why you think it's going to grow in the market, why customers are going to like it. You then test your hypothesis using a minimum viable product. So here's a donut, which is a minimum viable product, and here's the final product. So before you spent too much time making a frosted donut with sprinkles, you just might want to test a plain donut in the market to see if people want to eat donuts at all. An example that Ries gives in the book is Zappos shoe store. So the president and founder of Zappos, which is the largest online shoe retailer and was sold to Amazon for hundreds of millions of dollars recently, basically started off by the guy thinking that he could provide a better online shopping experience for shoes than anywhere else. And he thought that people would buy shoes. So his value hypothesis was that he could sell these shoes, and the growth hypothesis was that people would actually buy it. They would be willing to buy online. So you'd think that he had two ways of going forward. He could go to venture capitalists, seek out millions of dollars to build a online shopping experience to buy all of the basic shoes that someone would potentially buy, spend a lot of money on advertising, and then test his hypothesis. So he would have been in millions of dollars in the hole and a lot of time and effort before he even knew if people would buy shoes online, if that was a viable hypothesis. What he actually did, and is a great example of lean startup, is he went to shoe stores. He asked the owner, "Can I take some pictures of your shoes and post them online? And if someone buys the shoe online, I will pay you full price for the shoe." So he ended up testing his hypothesis by not buying a single shoe, by not purchasing a single factory, by not using any advertising, and by having a very low budget website. And he grew his whole industry, his whole business, starting with just testing without any cost or with very little cost if the thing would work. The other concept is this build, measure, learn cycle. So once you have a minimum viable product, so for that it was just a picture on a website. He didn't even need to own the shoe that he was selling. Then you see if people will buy it. And you build the minimum viable project, you test it out in the market, and you learn what people like and don't like from getting it out into the market, from the customers. And you use very small batches. So if you are going to buy, if he did start buying shoes, he wouldn't build a whole factory for them. He would start in his apartment and buy only the shoes that somebody was most interested in. So he's never so invested in one thing that if something changes, he's stuck. You keep iterating very quickly. Now, the PAL program has a value hypothesis that someone's personal goals should be the foundation of their healthcare. This is not the frosting on the cake. This is the cake itself. If you can start with what somebody wants, that should be the foundation of their care. That's our value hypothesis. The other value hypothesis is that a PAL, this volunteer we're training, can help someone identify their personal goal. Our growth hypothesis is that PALs can be trained, and all they need is interest and motivation, and that volunteers will flock to this role because it's so rewarding. Those are two hypotheses. So you can see we haven't invested billions of dollars before we've tested it. We've tested it without any upfront costs. Our minimum viable product is the personal health record, the core sites training, and the patient encounter form. And you'll see that these things change all the time. That's because of our last point, the build, measure, learn cycle. We're only printing 5 PHRs and encounter forms every time, because every time a PAL comes back with an idea or a patient has a reaction that we can learn from, we improve the product. So in summary, lean manufacturing allows for the most efficient form of production. Lean startup principles allow you to make rapid learning with minimum effort when there's high uncertainty in the market. And the PAL program uses a constant learning and development protocol to improve.